Yo, what's going on, everyone? How's everyone doing today? I'm Ivan. This is Equip the Podcast. Hope everyone is having a great day, noon, or night, depending on when you are watching this video or listening on Apple or Spotify. And if you are new here, welcome. And the whole purpose of this podcast, Equip, is to equip believers in Jesus in their everyday life through their walk in various different fashions, whether it's apologetics, whether it's Bible study, whether it's debunking something, whether it's asking questions about stuff. That's the whole point of this podcast. So thank you for taking time out of your day to listen. And if you are a usual listener, I appreciate you. Just make sure you like, subscribe, share with people, just to get the podcast out there more so more people can hear. So I always appreciate any and everybody. I don't care if it's just one person or a billion people. If they take time out of the day just to even listen, it's always appreciative. Thank you. Thanks to the Lord. Now let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. And today we're going to continue with our series, What Does This Verse Mean? And we are on part 4. Last week we talked about do not touch the Lord's anointed. It was in 1 Chronicles 16:22. Now this verse, I hope no one gets mad at me. But we'll see. I don't think anyone's gonna get mad, but it might not be what people expect. So the verse we're going over today is Philippians 4:13, which is a very popular Bible verse that most people might know as well. It's I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And the reason why I wanted to do this verse because this is a very popular verse. It's a great verse, obviously. And it's a verse that a lot of people use, but unfortunately, I think a lot of people kind of use this out of context, only from the standpoint of like it's like a superhero boldness type chant type thing where we'd be like, I could do all things through Christ, and we get like this superhero mentality. We're saying, okay, I can do anything, through Christ. So if I'm going to, I'm gonna use a drastic example. Not saying that people will say this, but I'm using a drastic example what I'm about to say. So it's like I can do all things through Christ. So if I want to jump off a bridge, I'll be okay. You know what I mean? Like the Bay Bridge, I'm gonna be okay. Or you know what? I don't have any training in this at all, so I'm gonna fight a person who's in boxing or mixed martial arts or something like that. But I can do all things through Christ, and I can do this thing. Or just like, and I know I'm using the most drastic examples, but the whole point I'm trying to make is that sometimes we can use this verse as an excuse to do things that are out of our circumference, or give us unrealistic expectations. And we just say, look, I got God's strength in me, so I can do this because I'm a believer and I can do this. And it's not necessarily what is going on here in this passage. So I kind of wanted to just pull up this passage and let's read and go through it and see what's going on to give us better context of what's going on. Because anytime people focus on one verse, it's always important to read the verses before and after it. Even though this could sound like a redundant thing that I have said, or maybe either other people have said, but it is important because people will build a theology, a way of thinking. A lot of stuff can happen because of one verse. One verse, one saying, and we can build a lot of things that the Bible or even the passage is not even, or the author who is writing it is not talking about. And we can use it in a context that's not really helpful for ourselves or even for other people who are listening to us. And also it's important so that way we're protecting ourselves by learning what actually is happening in the text, in the culture, what the author is actually trying to communicate to who the recipients are. That's always important as well. Who is writing this? Why are they writing this? Who they're writing to? What's going on in the story? Those are things you always have to ask yourself as you're reading scripture before we learn how do we apply or what can we get out of this. So let's get into this real quick. So Philippians 4:13. So I'm about to share my screen. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're just listening, just give me a second, please. While I'm gonna go here. All right. So we're gonna go to first. We're gonna go to Philippians 4:13. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read for Philippians 4 chapter 4, because Philippians 4:13 is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But I kind of wanted to start at verse 10 and read to like um 15. I'll just read to like 15. All right. So real quickly, Philippians 4, chapter 4, verses 10. We're gonna start here and read it through to like 14, 15, and then we'll talk more about it. All right. So Paul's saying, I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at length you have revived your concern for me. You were indeed concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. Now I know now how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Yet it was kind of you to share my trouble. And you Philippians yourselves know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church entered into partnership with me in giving and receiving except you only. All right. So there's actually something going on here. So now, as we're reading through this, because when we're reading a couple of verses before and after, we got to look at what's actually going on here before we get to the Philippians 4:13. Because we can't look at this and just think that, oh, this is only about, not saying everyone thinks it like this, but we can't just look at this and be like, all right, this verse is telling me, okay, I can do anything because Jesus strengthens me, which really is saying like I can do all things because, Jesus is on my side. When that's not really really what's going on here. Um, so hold on. All right. So if we look in verse 10, Paul says, I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at length you have revived your concern for me. You are indeed concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Um, so now, so right here, this is Paul, and Paul, he's talking to the church of Philippians. And at this point, the Philippians church, they weren't able to help and get to Paul's ministry because they didn't have the opportunity to, but now they do have the opportunity. And this is also talking about financial support that was given to Paul by how do you say this, man? Hold on. Epaphroditus. You'll hear about his name towards the end of the book as well in Philippians. But Epaphroditus, he actually gave Paul financial support. So when he says in verse 11, not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. So Paul is saying that, look, regardless if I'm getting money financially to help with his ministry, he's not speaking from a place that of really, oh, I need this money, like I really need it, because he learned, and he says, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. So he was rejoicing greatly because the Philippian church was able to give to him now that they have the opportunity to, and Epaphroditus has given him financial support. But he's also saying that, look, I'm not saying this, because I'm really in need per se, because he's been content in whatever situation that he's in, because Paul is in jail writing this epistle. Like, he's in jail writing this letter. So he's learned to be content in whatever situation that he's in, but he's still appreciative of believers in the churches like Philippians and Epaphroditus, who has given to him to help him. And then in verse 12, I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound in every circumstance. I've learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. So Paul is learning how to be content through his situations in his life. It helped him be able to be content in every circumstance, right? He learned the secret of how to face plenty and hunger and abundance and need throughout the process through, his life. So right here to bring it back again, so he's letting the Philippians church know that how they didn't have the opportunity to give to him before, but now they do, and then how how he's appreciative of them. And he's also, letting them know about Epirodius, even though it doesn't really say his name, but he's leading on because Epirodius did give to him while he was, in need. And then in verse 11, he's not speaking from a place of need, though, because he's learned how to be content in any situation that he's been in, right? But he's still appreciative, obviously, that these fellow believers are helping him, because he says, I know how to be brought low and I know how to abound. And in every circumstance, I learned the secret of facing plenty, hunger, and abundance and need. Now we're going to get to the main verse right here now in Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Yet it was kind of you to share my trouble. And you, Philippians, yourselves know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church entered into partnership with me in giving and receiving except you only. So we're going to get to that. So now in verse 13, we see that the Philippian church didn't have an opportunity to give. Now that they do now, he's appreciative for the Philippian church and Epirodius. And regardless, he's not speaking from a place of need, because he's content in every situation that he's in. Right? He knows that how, how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. That even though I'm low in the situations in my circumstances in my life, I know how to abound in those circumstances, even when I'm low. In any and every circumstance, I've learned that secret of facing plenty and hunger and abundance and need. He learned the secret, and that secret is what? Verse 13 explains that. Philippians 4:13. What's the secret? That I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Yet it was kind of you to share in my trouble. So Paul is saying I can be content in my situations, knowing how to be brought low and still know how to abound in every circumstance and situation, because it's Jesus who strengthened them in every situation. It's him. It's Jesus Christ who is helping him to stay content no matter what is going on, right? And he's saying in verse 14, it was kind of them to share in his trouble and how is it kind of them? In verse 15, he says it. And you Philippians yourself know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church entered partnership with me. And in partnership with me in giving and receiving except you only. So no other church was really in a partnership with Paul except for the Philippians church at this time. Receiving and giving relationship, except for you only, right? So that was how the Philippians church was kind to share Paul's trouble, because they were in this relationship of giving and receiving with one another. Now, if you're looking at the word strengthens me in the Greek real quick, let's look at that. So we know, which is this word in dynamo, in dunomo. I think that's how you say it. Hold on.
Strong's G 1743, endunamao.
Oh,
endunamao.
Okay, so endunamao, that's the word who strengthens me. Now, let's see what it means real quick. All right, let's go down here. So we're looking at the Thayer's Greek lexicon. Let's show all this because we need to see what's the word and how they apply it here. All right. So it is to make strong, endue with strength, and strengthen. I think these are key components here, right? It's to make strong, to endue with strength, and to strengthen. right? So I can do all things through him who strengthens me. So Jesus helps us be content by strengthening us and endue and strengthen. He helps us endure with strength. That's how we can be content in no matter what situation that we are in. So let's wrap all of this up, shall we? Because this ain't gonna be a super long video. Because I think this is straight to the point. If I'm gonna be honest, I think it's straight to the point here. All right, let's stop sharing real quick. So if you look at the context of why Paul said, "I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me." So remember, before he's letting the Philippians church know that at one point they didn't have the opportunity to give, but now he is appreciative because they are pretty much given to him because Epaphroditus also gave to him earlier, and he explained that. Then in verse 11, he says, look, I'm not speaking because I'm really in need per se, but I'm speaking because I'm saying this because I'm content in my situation. You know, in verse 11, now that I speak now that I speak from want, for I have learned to be content in all and whatever circumstances I am in. So he's not saying I'm in a place of need because I've learned to be content in all my circumstances, right? I know how to get along. You know, I know how to go, I know how when it is to be low, to be high. Like I understand these things now because I'm content. And the secret is, right? What's the secret that he learned? How to do it? Is Jesus giving him strength to endure those circumstances? And because that's how he was content. That's how he was able to do it. That's how he was able to deal with being flogged, being chased out of places, being locked up for the gospel. He was able to be content in all those circumstances because it was Jesus strengthening him. That's what he's talking about. So now, nevertheless, shout out to shout out to the Philippian church, because now you share in trouble with me. Like you share that, you share this with me now. You're kind enough to share this what I'm dealing with now. Why is it kind? Because no other church, in verse 15, no other church entered into a partnership receiving and giving with him except for the Philippian church. So the Philippian church was kind enough to be partnered with Paul during his ministry and what he was going through. Now, regardless if they were or not, Paul was still content because Jesus is strengthening him and helping him be content, but he is appreciative of the Philippian church supporting him. And he's writing a letter to him while he's literally in jail at that time. He's literally in jail right now, and he's writing this letter to them, right? So to bring this all up, to bring it back. So when we read this verse and we really read what's going on and what Paul is talking about, he's not using this verse as I can do literally anything because Jesus is on my side. I'm not, I could be like almost like this superhero type thing, because sometimes this verse is used in that way. It really is. It's used in that way. Not saying everybody does, but people have it, use it in this way. Oh, I can do this because Jesus is strengthening me. Like they'll use that as a realistic thing to say, I can do this because Jesus is strengthening me. It sounds good. It's almost like, oh, you can do anything you put your mind to. We've heard that before. Like you can do anything you put your mind to. Oh, you can get this work. I mean, and in certain circumstances it's true, but in other circumstances, it's not always going to be true. I mean, it's just a reality. How many people say, oh, I could do anything I put my mind to, and I want to go to the NBA, or I want to go to the league? Look at the odds of, it's like 1%, I think. Don't quote me. I think it's 1% chance to make the league, to make the pros. It's not for everybody. Not everyone's going to make it, no matter how much you put your mind to it. That you can do all things through Christ. It's not going to happen. It's unrealistic. It doesn't matter. We're just not, we're just not fortunate. Whether you don't have the skills, or you don't have the opportunity, or you don't have both. I don't care how much you put your mind to it and how much you pray. And I'm really not trying to say this to sound bad or negative or to demean you. Because if you are watching this, I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm really not. But my point is, I don't want you to use this verse in the wrong context to mislead you, thinking that, oh, I can do all things because Jesus is going to do it for me. And then when it doesn't happen, then we're mad with Jesus because he didn't do this to me. Because Paul said I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. So now I believe in Jesus. He's going to strengthen me and I can do all these things, when that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about being content in every situation, through everything that Paul's been through. You read about Paul's missionary and his missionary journey. He's been through a lot, ultimately being killed for the gospel. He's been thrown in jail multiple times. He's been flogged. He's been ran out of cities. The people came for his character. He's been through some stuff. And he's able to be content. Why? It's because Jesus is strengthening him to be content. So now he can be content in anything because of what Jesus is doing to strengthen him. This doesn't mean I can do anything since Jesus is on my side. That's not what this verse is saying. Now, there's a kind of hint truth in it in a way, but it's not exactly what it's saying. Paul is saying I'm content. I can be content because Jesus is strengthening me and helping me to endure whatever hardships, whether high or low, that I'm going through. So if we're going to look at this verse anyway, look in this verse look how hard my situation is in my life, whether it's I'm dealing with certain addictions, or I'm dealing with certain problems, or I might not have the best living situation. I might not have everything. But even despite of me not having everything, or for me going through circumstances, whether it's my fault or not my fault, I can be content even in these situations because Jesus is helping me endure by me placing my faith and trust in him, that he's going to help me endure and give me strength to continue to persevere through what I'm going through. Now, that doesn't mean we'll always be stuck in a situation or dealing with a problem. And sometimes people might have to. But it's just us learning how to be content in our situation, even if we don't have what we want right now. Us being content. That's how we endure and build strength. And that's through Jesus Christ, not through us, not through anybody else. So that's pretty much what Paul is talking about right here. And I don't want to discourage people saying that, oh, I should just I can't do anything. Like, you should still work and still have belief and things like that and work hard, because people accomplish stuff all the time doing it. But I just don't want us to think this verse is like, okay, I literally can do everything because Jesus is on my side and I believe in Jesus, so it's going to happen because he's giving me strength. And when that's not what this verse is saying, sometimes it can be applied in that way. Well, realistically, things are going to happen regardless of Jesus on your side. Like, things in your life are going to happen naturally, and that's not always going to be your fault, and it's not Jesus doing it either. It's just life happens. But Jesus helps us endure and give us strength and perseverance to endure when things happen in our life. And I'm glad it's honest in this way, because guess what? These things are going to happen in our life, and the Bible over and over again reminds us of that happening, but it's giving us tools on how to deal with it. So we're not shocked and we're not surprised. Now we know how to deal with it. But we got to actually read for what it's actually saying and apply it the right way, so that way we're able to endure the things that we're going through in our life and not just looking at every verse as like, okay, wait my storm and then the storm's over, or, this is only momentarily, or no. Sometimes it's not going to be momentarily. Sometimes it's going to be a while. It's just, that's just the reality of life. And I'm glad the Bible's honest in that way, because it's not lying to us. It's giving us 100% what it is. So that way we actually know how to deal with these things that happen in our life. And we can do all things, and we can be content in the situation that we are right now, because Jesus is strengthening you to endure it and whatever it is. So remember the verse in that way. Not that, oh, I can do everything or all things or some things, or I can just do anything I put my mind to because Jesus is on my side. But no, I can be content in my situation, whether I'm low or high, because Jesus gives me strength to endure it. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you for listening. Have a great day or night or noon. Peace.